Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome into the Wednesday edition on my YouTube channel. For my subscribers, for my followers, you already know this is the day I'm going to give out my top starts and sits for fantasy football in week 10. Why don't I just go ahead and dive into the options for you guys? Starting with the quarterback position, my top starts. First of all, Derek Carr against the Chiefs. The Chiefs, as everybody knows, they have been one of the worst defenses this year. They have allowed the second most points per game to quarterbacks this year. They're giving up 21.9 points a game. Now, Derek is obviously he's coming off one of his worst outings out of this season, but they did add Deshaun Jackson. He is practicing this week, so he's going to add another element to the offense. And you would think that if there was a defense for maybe the Raiders to figure something out and get back on track, that could be the Chiefs. So, with that being said, if you're looking for a streaming option, if maybe you have a quarterback that is on a bye week, maybe you have a quarterback that is banged up. I know there was some promising news about Kyler Murray today, but maybe you need some insurance in case Kyler Murray can't play. I would definitely go consider Derek Carr if he's out there on the market for you. My second top start of the week, I'm going with Matthew Stafford against the 49ers. I know Stafford's coming off a rough outing this past Sunday against the Titans defense, but I think he's set to bounce back and get this Rams team back on track this week. The 49ers have been getting picked apart in the secondary. They have aging veterans back there. So a lot of quarterbacks are finding success against that defense. And they have they have tied for the third most allowed points per game against the quarterbacks this year. They're allowing 20.9 points a game. So I think this is a great matchup to take advantage of Stafford and get him in your lineup when you put those together this week. My top sits, yeah, Baker Mayfield against the Patriots. I mean, I know Baker Mayfield just completely had a bounce back, a rebound game in their first their first game after the OBJ drama. But I do think he's going to come back a little bit down to earth this week. The Patriots, obviously, anytime you go against the Patriots, it's going to be a tough defense to play because of Bill Belichick. And this season, they've allowed the second fewest amount of points per game to quarterbacks. They're only giving up 14.4. And then it came out, yesterday, I think it was, that came out, or Monday, that Nick Chubb is currently on the COVID protocol. Now, he is vaccinated, so he does have an opportunity to play on Sunday. But if Nick Chubb cannot play, I know D'Ernest Johnson did a really good job a couple weeks ago, but with it being Bill Belichick and the Patriots defense, you kind of wish that he had Nick Chubb, where Nick Chubb. Basically, what I'm trying to get at is Nick Chubb is going to make the defense respect the rushing attack. So that could potentially open up things. So I already don't like the matchup, even if Chubb's in there. But if you take Chubb out of the equation, I really would not consider playing Baker Mayfield if you were thinking about it based on his performance from last week. My other sit, this is to temper your expectations because I know people are going to play Jalen no matter what because of his rushing ability and he's been a very solid and consistent fantasy quarterback. Let me emphasize fantasy quarterback. I don't want to get words taken out of my mouth, but yeah, he's going. But this week though, temper your expectations if you're going to play him. If you're maybe setting a DFS lineup, I would consider going to other options than Jalen. They're going against the Broncos defense that is tied for the third fewest amount of points per game allowed. They're only giving up 14.6 points a game. So there's an potential that Jalen doesn't put up a lot of points. I said it last night on my top streamable defense section in that video. Go back and watch that if you have not yet. I think this game is going to be a very low scoring game. So I don't know why. I think it's just because of being in Denver and the defenses. Yeah, I just feel like it's going to be a low scoring battle. So if you have other options, I'd consider somebody else than Jalen. So again, my top starts at the quarterback position, Derek Carr against the Chiefs and Matthew Stafford against the 49ers. My top sits, Baker Mayfield against the Patriots and Jalen Hurts against the Broncos. Let's go ahead and get into the running back position. We got my top starts. I'm going to go with Devin Singletary against the Jets. Now, I'm not sure where Zach Moss stands right now. Zach Moss is currently in concussion protocol. So if Zach Moss does get cleared by concussion protocol by Sunday, you could even maybe consider playing Zach in your lineup. Now, if he does not play, then yeah, fire up Devin Singletary this week. The Jets have allowed the most points per game to running back position. They're giving up 31.2 points. So that's what I'm saying. Even if Zach Moss is in there, I kind of like the two of them to both have a good outing, and you just hope you get the guy that has a touchdown. I didn't put Zach's name there because I know sometimes it's tough for these guys to clear concussion protocol for the following week. So if you got Devin Singletary, I'd highly take my chance on them. I even saw some quote with Sean McDermott talking about the running game is not where they want it to be. So it feels like this might be the week they're going to force the issue with the rushing attack. And if there's a team to get that rushing attack right, it's against the Jets. I mean, look what Nyheim Hines and Jonathan Taylor did to that defense last week. So if you got Devin Singletary, I'd highly consider playing him this week. My other start, I'm going with Najee Harris against the Lions. He's almost getting to the point where I don't know if you have to really debate playing him because you know how much volume he's going to get. But yeah, they're going against the Lions this week. The Lions have allowed the second most allowed points per game to running backs. They're giving up 26.2 points a game. And I could just see the Steelers getting up on the Lions. I mean, we all know the Lions stink, right? So if they end up getting up on them 2 to 3 scores early in this game, then they're going to lean on Najee to run the clock and get out of there as fast as they can with the win. So if you got Najee Harris, it's simple. Put him in your lineup and don't think about it. Now moving on to my sits, I'm going with a couple guys that maybe you're forced to play them. I know there's a couple leagues in my that I own. Definitely Michael Carter. I didn't get many DeAndre Swift shares this week, but if I had DeAndre Swift, there's no chance I would not play him. So both of these are kind of temper your expectations, but I will say this with Michael Carter. If you do have some other options, I would consider it this week. Michael Carter is going against the Bills defense. As everybody knows, they're one of the toughest defense to get fantasy points against this year. They are allowing the fewest allowed of points per game to running backs. They're only giving up 12.3 points a game. And this just seems like, after losing to the Jaguars, the Bills are going to probably come out angry and want to put up a lot of points on the Jets, and so that can end up being a pass-heavy offense from New York. Now, Michael Carter would definitely still be involved with the passing attack as he has been, but I just don't know if he's going to get the points that you're going to hope him to get. Again, if you got to play him just because of how your roster is, I understand it. I mean, I'm considering playing him in a couple of leagues. I own him, but just temper your expectations if he has a bad game. Same thing goes with DeAndre Swift. They're going against the Steelers this week. Steelers are tied for the second fewest amount of points per game. They're giving up to running backs right now, only giving up 14.2 points a game. And, and just like I just talked about Najee Harris, right? I could see the Steelers getting up big, and they have to be a pass-happy offense. But, Swift's just like Carter. Even if they switch to a pass-happy offense, he should still be somewhat involved. But, again, numbers say that running backs have struggled to score fantasy points against these defenses. So if you play them, if you have to, I would attempt your expectations. But again, sometimes these sits I'm mentioning too, I want to mention, I don't know if anybody does listen to me for like daily fantasy plays. I think this is information that you can, cross over to your daily fantasy lineup. I might not be diving into how much money you're going to spend on players for daily fantasy, but these would be some guys I would avoid putting into my daily fantasy lineups if I were you. So my top starts again for the running back position: Devin Singletary against the Jets, Najee Harris against the Lions. My top sits: Michael Carter against the Bills and DeAndre Swift against the Steelers. Now let's go ahead and move into the wide receiver position. Getting into my top start of the week, I'm going with Marvin Jones / Laviska Shenault against the Colts. Now, obviously, these guys have been very inconsistent, and they might not be very trustworthy for you to put it into your lineup. But I will go ahead and say this as a Colts fan. The Colts have struggled to defend the pass, to say the least, this year. They always have at least one wide receiver goes off against them. In fantasy, we saw Elijah Moore, even though the Colts were blowing them out, Elijah Moore still had I think 80 yards and a couple touchdowns last week against the defense, and because they end up switching to a pass-happy offense. Now, Colts and Jaguars do actually I'm about to do my Colts Wire article tonight. I'll be diving into the stats, but they typically kind of play each other close. It's kind of weird, but if the Colts end up blowing them out and the Jags are the Jags and the Colts continue their hot streak on the offense that they pulled over last week, this could end up being a pass-happy offense. So if you have Marvin Jones, if you have Laviska Shenault, I would definitely consider playing them. And I didn't even say the stat on them. The Colts have allowed the fourth most points per game to wide receivers. They're giving up 27.6. So if there was a week to play those guys, I would consider sliding them in the flex or like a wide receiver 3 spot on your roster. My other top starts, I'm going with this is for the Thursday night game, so you definitely want to make sure you get them in your lineup before then. But Hollywood Brown and Rashad Bateman against the Dolphins. The Dolphins defense has struggled with containing wide receivers this year. They're allowing the 5th most allowed points per game to wide receivers, giving up 27.4 points a game. The Ravens passing attack has evolved this year, and Hollywood Brown is having that year 3 boom where he at any given moment he could take off the top of a defense. Rashad Bateman has steadily gotten better as he's gotten into the lineup after he returned from his injury, and he's looking like he's going to continue to make an impact as a rookie. So if you have one of those guys, definitely put him in your lineup this week. I would not hesitate to do that. Now my sits. Now, I will go ahead and address this. Elijah Moore was my wide receiver ad on the waiver wire target video, which, again, if you have not watched that video, go back and watch it. But as I said last night, Elijah Moore is a stash ad. I would not play him this week, and then I would consider him going forward. Again, it's just like I mentioned about Michael Carter, right? They're going against the Bills this week. The Bills have allowed the fewest amount of points per game to the wide receiver position, only giving up 13 points a game. It is confirmed that Mike White will be starting, so Zach Wilson's not going to be in the lineup. We'll have to see. Maybe Mike White can take the magic that he had a couple weeks ago and do that against the Bills defense, but it's not a situation I would trust. So if you have better options, I would definitely consider picking somebody else. Now, my second sit, this is kind of a temper your expectations / I would maybe sit Adam Thielen. So with that being said, Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen against the Chargers defense. The Chargers right now have allowed the second fewest amount of points per game to the wide receiver position. They're only giving up 15.2 points a game, and that's honestly because their defense cannot stop the run. Teams are just running all over them, and guess what the Vikings love to do? They love to run the ball. So I think Dalvin Cook is going to have a huge afternoon against the Chargers defense. So that will take away from as many passing attempts and targets that you would like to count on. Now, I'm going to go ahead and be honest with you. I own Justin Jefferson in a league, and I'm not going to take him out of my lineup. So for me, Justin Jefferson's a temper my expectation play, but he's too talented for me to not leave in my lineup. Now with Adam Thielen is a very talented wide receiver, but there have been, when you go back and look, there's been some serious duds that Adam has laid in this season. Basically, he's kind of been like, 1 week he'll have a great week, and the next week maybe he gets a couple catches just because of how the offense went that day. And the numbers say that this might be one of those matchups. So if you have a better option than Adam Thielen, I would consider it. I understand if you play him, it's just like Justin, right? Just temper your expectations, and if they have a bad outing, the matchup just wasn't in their favor. So again, my top starts for wide receivers, Marvin Jones and Laviska Shenault against the Colts, and Hollywood Brown and Rashad Bateman against the Dolphins. My top sits, Elijah Moore against the Bills, and we got Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen against the Chargers. Now let's go ahead and put a bow on this episode and get the tight end position for you guys. Going ahead and get into my top starts at tight end. And this was confirmed because I wrote out my script during lunch today, and I was like, I don't know, man. Noah Fant's still on the COVID list, but then I saw about 4 o'clock this afternoon, he's been activated off the COVID list, so Noah Fant is back on the Broncos roster for this game, and he's got a perfect matchup for him to have a boom performance this year in fantasy football. The Broncos are going against the Eagles. As of right now, the Eagles have allowed the most points per game to tight ends this year. They're giving up 12.2 points a game. So if there was a matchup to take advantage of Noah Fant, I think that's going to be this week for you. My other top start, This is for a Thursday night game, so if you got him, get him in your lineup. Mike Gesicki against the Ravens. The Ravens have allowed the second most points per game to tight ends. They're giving up 12.0 points a game. Devontae Parker's on IR. Will Fuller is not returning this week. That's been confirmed. So it's Jalen Waddle, and then it's Mike Gesicki. He's going to see all the targets, and he's going against a defense that's allowed a lot of points to that position. So if you have Mike Gesicki, get him in your lineup. I would not hesitate to do so. Now, my top sits, I will go ahead and say Dallas Goedert is a temper your expectation, and maybe that's me telling myself because I have him in the money league, but you can't deny that it's him and Devontae Smith in this passing attack. So you kind of got to gamble on the targets, and I understand why you would play Dallas this week because he's going to either be the number 1 or number 2 leader in targets in this game. But he has a rough matchup. They're going against the Broncos defense. The Broncos defense is tied for the fewest amount of points per game allowed to tight ends this year. They're only giving up 4.1 points a game. So as I've been saying with the temper your expectations, I get it if you play this guy. He's too talented to leave on your bench. He's going to get the targets. But if those targets are not efficient, just understand the Broncos have been pretty good against the tight end position thus far this year. My other sit, I'm going with Jared Cook against the Vikings. The Vikings have allowed the third fewest amount of points per game to the tight end position. They're only giving up 4.7 points a game. Eric Kendricks is one of the better coverage linebackers in this league. So it makes sense why tight ends have struggled to put up points against Minnesota. And then you want to add in the fact that Donald Parham has been more involved as of like the last few weeks. So Jared Cook is not getting like all the tight end targets that you would want to see. And it's that Donald Parham has kind of siphoned some targets away from him over the last couple weeks. So you combine that type of situation, which is evolving in the Chargers passing attack, and then you combine that with the Vikings defense, who has been very steady against the tight ends this year. It's just something I would look to avoid this week if you can. So again, my top starts for the tight end position: Noah Fant against the Eagles, Mike Gesicki against the Ravens, and my top sits are Dallas Goedert against the Broncos and Jared Cook against the Vikings. So yeah, that's my video, guys. As always, I appreciate anybody that takes the time to watch these videos. It means a lot that you guys do enjoy the fantasy football advice I've been giving you. I hope you guys you're in position to make this final push to secure a playoff spot. We're in about the middle of November, so yeah, it's almost Thanksgiving. It's that time of the year where you can go win yourself some money. So I wish everybody good luck this weekend. As always, if you have not yet, hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. And if you have not subscribed yet, as always, please hit that subscribe button. Always trying to get that number up. And if you guys want to help me out and go tell a friend to check me out if they're looking for somebody to get fantasy football advice, spread the word. You don't have to hog me, and you can get your other friends in your fantasy league to listen to me. And as always, check out the prospectencyclopedia.com. I'm always going to promote that. I still think it's a good product that you can use this late in the season. Go to prospectencyclopedia.com to check it out and read into it. You can get the entire PDF for $15. Individual team PDFs are $1. As always, you can check out the Buck section that I wrote for free. See if that impresses you, and then if you want to make the full purchase, you can go ahead and do that. Other than that, I'll be back here on Saturday when I do my Week 10 preview, so stay tuned for that. If you guys have any fantasy questions, though, always hit me up in a text, a DM. You can at me on Twitter at Cody Talks NFL. Find a way to get a hold of me, and I'll make sure I get your question answered. I'll talk to you guys on Saturday, and you enjoy the rest of your week.